wonder if it boils down to a case of rhetoric not meeting the rubber not meeting the road, as it were. So they haven't yet governed anywhere where they could show whether they're capable of providing services, for example. So it could be a case of lofty rhetoric. We can promise lots of things, but in the same way, you get that from the ANC. So many voters could say, Julius is simply repeating a lot of points that we've heard from ANC leaders. So will he actually deliver? Well, why not just stick with the devil we know kind of thing? I think that might be one explanation. Another might simply be, I think the last few years with the lockdowns, the EFF, they're probably the party that has felt that the most. They're very sort of spectacle driven, the optics, that kind of thing, being on the ground, being with large crowds, that kind of thing. And when you can't do that due to lockdowns, so maybe in a way we should thank the government for imposing harsh lockdowns, because the EFF hasn't had their big events. But I think that's also partly it. They need scandal. They need all that kind of stuff. So maybe now again, with the ANC elective conference coming up, they might try to play kingmaker in some ways. I would argue that that's a longer game that Malema is playing in the metros. Now, for example, giving his quote unquote support to the DA, for example, and Action SA to get the ANC out, I think he's playing a longer game towards the national election in 2024, where he's going to try and sort of operate in the background and try and get what he wants out of the ANC. We might get a more radical version of expropriation without compensation, more so radical than the ANC themselves might even want, but trying to appease the EFF and getting their votes. Another reason why the EFF might not be doing that well is that some people might simply be seeing through the rhetoric. So I know that sometimes some of us sort of in analysis and commentariat, we think that South Africans are sort of quote unquote ripe for the pickings. They're just waiting for the first person to come and promise them something and they'll all follow them. They're like, it's like a hive mind. They're going to believe whatever he says. But maybe a lot of them see through what he says. They see a bit of a charlatan, a bit of a snake oil salesman, and they're not going to follow sort of his lofty dreams. And they realize, someone who drives around in a Land Rover with his Gucci shoes and all that stuff, maybe he isn't really a man of the people. It's just for show kind of thing. So I think it's a multifaceted answer. There's probably other stuff that I'm not even thinking of right now, but the EFF, they're still going to play a big role, I think, going forward. But they also seem to be, I don't think they're wielding their full potential. And for different reasons, I also think a party like the ACDP in a relatively more conservative country aren't playing to their strengths and not doing as well as I thought a party like that would do.
Yeah, to our viewers, I'm just occasionally rubbing my face with this cloth because if you close the windows and the fan, you're basically cooking yourself in this heat. But Dumo, a lot of people say, okay, but yes, Julius Malema, he's a strategic genius because he gave the DA power in Johannesburg and Ekurhuleni. But wasn't he basically forced to do that? Because, at the end of the day, he has to choose someone. But he can't be constantly the opposition party that just, okay, I'm not going to pick the ANC or the DA. He has to choose someone. Why would you vote for him then?
Right. Look, yeah, maybe Julius Malema is this, 4D chess player. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe there's something. It depends on what the objective that he's trying to achieve. I think, looking at that, I think perhaps he was forced to choose, but also, I think the EFF has got a reputation for backstabbing. So you saw what they did in Nelson Mandela Bay. You saw what happened even in Joburg as well, and you also saw what happened in, I think, was it Tshwane? I'm not sure, but what these guys were doing, they played kingmaker, and then when they didn't get their way, they got stabbed in the back. So I think what's happening now is that, all these parties that want to rely on the EFF to, get some sort of, I wouldn't say dominance, but get some sort of influence or something. I think what's going to happen is that they're going to be very wary of the EFF. They'll rather say, you know what, let's rather go to everyone else besides the EFF. Then the EFF, no one's going to approach them, but yet they can still decide who's the kingmaker at the end of the day. So, so that way, if the EFF, let's say, ends up voting for the DA, which they did, let's say in, was it Joburg, right? And Ekurhuleni. I think ultimately, if the EFF want to do any backstabbing, it may not hurt the DA that badly. So I think the EFF actually, in my opinion, they actually shot themselves in the foot when they backstabbed the DA, because now other parties are just not going to be reliant. I mean, if you look at Action SA, they said they spoke to EFF, and I don't think the negotiations went well, in my opinion. And I think that's the reason. I think someone told them, you just can't trust these guys. So I don't know if Julius Malema is this 4D chess player. Maybe he wants just to play kingmaker and just pick and choose which party becomes, or which mayor is going to be elected when it suits him. So maybe he doesn't want to be loyal. Maybe he wants to show that, listen, I can make you king or I can destroy you. And therefore you must be very wary of me. So maybe that's why people say he's a brilliant strategist, but it depends how you look at it. Yeah.